Hey everyone, this is Mary from the CE Relationship Development Project, and I'm doing my end of quarter update. So, high level, what am I trying to do with this project? I'm trying to get people to become friends with each other digitally. Why do we care about people being friends with each other? There's a lot of people who are lonely right now, and loneliness is a risk factor for depression and early mortality. Friends are an intervention to that, and they also benefit your mental health. But why is it difficult to make friends? So, making friends takes a lot of time and effort. Um, you need sustained interactions with another person to become their friend, but it's hard to have these sustained interactions with somebody who might only potentially become your friend, meaning you don't know them very well right now. If you have a busy schedule, it's unlikely that you would schedule time to meet up with somebody that you don't really know. But what if there was a way for us to interact with somebody without physically needing to plan and meet up with another person in person? We could do this digitally. But it's hard to make friends digitally still, even though it might be more convenient time-wise for us to make friends. It's because when you reach out to somebody digitally, in current technology, you usually have to initiate contact with another person to become their friend. But that brings up a new set of problems. First, it's difficult to reach out to somebody because there's high uncertainty about this other person, meaning you don't know how they would really interact. And so if you direct message somebody and they don't respond, you would feel socially rejected. Most people don't like feeling that way, and so they try to avoid that, and that means not messaging the stranger in the first place. Even if they do respond, it's hard to sustain interactions with them because it's hard to know in a contextless sort of environment like direct messaging what exactly to say to them. Okay, so what can we do to mitigate all these sort of obstacles? Well, let's use Cerebro to interact with strangers opportunistically. So Cerebro is a platform for opportunistic collective experiences, and basically that means is that it creates spaces for interactions opportunistically so that you can interact with somebody at a moment that's convenient for you. Basically, you might be in a space with a physical affordance of like a drink, and there might be an experience on the Cerebral platform available with the same need, so an experience about drinks. If that's the case, then you can participate within this experience and it notifies you automatically, so you don't have to seek out the experience. Rather, it just comes to you based on your environment at the time. Because the system mediates the interaction, you won't have to directly reach out to the stranger, and therefore you won't have to deal with the fear of being socially rejected. But this doesn't really mitigate the problem of not knowing what to say or to do in the interaction. There's still a high amount of uncertainty between you and the other stranger. So what can we do to design around that? Right now, we're thinking about grounding the experiences in triadic closure and using physical affordances to lower the uncertainty in both the other person and the situation. So, in triadic closure, basically, you might know somebody and a stranger might know that same somebody, and that same somebody can connect the two of you together. Because you have this shared network connection, you're more likely to trust the other person because you trust this friend that you have in common. So through triadic closure, we can get strangers to feel more comfortable with each other. And so in initial experiences, if we embed the common person in the experience, people will feel more comfortable to participate in the first place, but also feel comfortable with each other and trust each other more. We can also use physical affordances to create structures in the experience to lower the uncertainty of indirect messaging of what do I say, like without any context. Because Cerebro uses physical affordances, we can use those same physical affordances to give structure to the experience. So in the example before, I was talking about coffee giving structure to the experience, like taking a picture of your coffee drink and giving a caption about it. you can give these same instructions to make it easier to participate. So there's no awkwardness about what to say or how to interact with the other stranger. That's not really enough, though, to get two people to become friends. We can make it easy for we can make it easy for two strangers to interact in the first place, but how can we get them from a state of being strangers to becoming a new friend with each other? So how can we progress this relationship? And we think that we can get two people to become closer to each other by having them behave like friends to each other. So in addition to structuring the experience, we want to also structure the interactions that two strangers might have with each other to mimic behaviors that friends have. So self-disclosure, providing social support to each other, maintaining a shared history and referencing that. All these behaviors get people to feel closer to one another, and if we embed these behaviors within the experience, we can get two people to feel closer to each other and therefore become friends. So this quarter, well, that was my design argument anyways. What did I do this quarter? Basically, I developed a study design, got a conceptual framing around this design argument I just explained, and also built out one experience. So for the study design, I was primarily focusing on how to frame research questions and claims and then get measures aligned to these questions and claims. So here are my questions, and they go back to the design argument. So what does grounding the experience in triadic closure do to get people to interact? And the same thing for using physical affordances. How can we ground the interactions to get people to interact with each other? The third research question is just using Cerebro as a platform. How does opportunistically creating interaction spaces affect engagement among users? And for the fourth one, this one is more about the longitudinal nature of using Cerebro to develop a friendship. How can we scaffold interactions among strangers to affect their relationship over time? Like, what does it do to people to have them behave like friends to each other? And so I developed this study procedure. Primarily, I was thinking about who would be the user group within the next study, so people who might need friends, and I came up with first-year students and new graduates because they are in new situations in their life and they might be needing friends. I also created a pre/post questionnaire for the study to see to evaluate different quantitative changes in the state of the strangers through the experiment. So I considered different validated scales for uncertainty, social distress, interpersonal closeness, and intimacy, and I'm still considering right now how to use these scales to measure the changes in the relationship. I think primarily the evidence that will be used to show that Cerebro can be used to create friends will be post-study interviews, and so I have developed a set of questions for these claims, and I'm trying to align the questions with the claims. Some limitations to this study right now is that there's no control group, or there's no other conditions except for the group using Cerebro right now, and without another condition, it's hard to directly compare this technology versus other technology. Like, how does Cerebro compare against Facebook or any other social technology? And it's also difficult to measure the effect of different characteristics without using multiple test groups, because there's not like a group for triadic closure and a group without. It's hard to see what exactly is the change between the two. The conceptual framing that I'm thinking about was initially, how do I justify not having multiple groups within the study, or how do I justify not having a control group in the study? And I think initially I was thinking of this technology kind of in comparison to all other social media. Like, why is Cerebro better to use than Facebook or Twitter or Snapchat? Um, and I think that argument lends itself to something where you would need a control or you would need the direct comparison. But I think with the conditions in the study that we have, it'd be difficult to create that sort of those different test groups. And so now I'm focusing on a more exploratory approach, or if writing the paper, trying to present this as a new technology which we want to explore the potential of, so that there doesn't need to be a control. And so I've written an introduction trying to get at this, like the potential of the Cerebro. And so in the future, what I think will need to be done in order to have this study be run is to build out the rest of the experiences, and also consider right now how the current situation with the pandemic would affect my study design, and if it's even possible to run the study in this current condition. And I've done a lot of work on the introduction and thinking about the conceptual argument and the design argument, but within the writing a final paper, I need to think about related work in technology. And of course, I need to actually run the study in the future with this new study design. Okay, I think that's it. It was a good final quarter, y'all. Can't wait to run the study.